Welcome to the AB Study Partner. Today we have an absolute classic for you in this explainer. If you're a first-year tax student, grab your highlighters and get comfortable, because we are looking at one of the most legendary tax showdowns in South African history. We're talking about the famous case of Mooi versus the Secretary for Inland Revenue. This is basically the ultimate David versus Goliath story, except David is an employee with a seriously clever legal argument, and Goliath is the tax man. It's a foundational case about the principles of conditional accrual, and honestly, understanding it is totally going to save you in your final exams.
Section 1. The Sweet Stock Option Deal.
To truly understand the law, you gotta picture the story. Let's set the scene with our animated protagonist, Mr. Mooi. Picture this guy, working hard, and suddenly he lands what seems like the deal of a lifetime at his job. The company he works for offers him an option to subscribe for, meaning to buy, shares in the company. Getting shares in your employer's company is always a nice perk, but this specific deal had a massive kicker that sounded almost too good to be true. But you know how it is in the corporate world, there were strings attached. Let's walk through Mr. Mooi's timeline, because the dates and conditions here are exactly what this whole case hinges on. Step 1. The company offers him the option, but it comes with two massive conditions. He can only exercise this option if the new mine he's working at actually comes into operation, and he must still be employed by the company when that happens. Okay, step 2. Fast forward 3 long years. Our guy Mr. Mooi is sweating it out at the mine, he stays loyal to the company, and boom, the mine successfully comes into operation. The conditions are met. Step 3. Mooi immediately exercises his option. And here is the beautiful part for him. The option price he pays in rands is far, far below the actual market price of those shares. He gets a massive discount just for sticking around and doing his job until the mine opened. He must have been laughing all the way to the bank, right?
Section 2. Enter the tax man.
Well, not so fast. If you're making a tidy profit, you can bet someone is watching. In this historical case, that someone was the Secretary for Inland Revenue. For all of us studying today, you can just think of them as the historical version of modern-day SARS. And trust me, the taxman does not like being left out of a lucrative party. What's really interesting is how the taxman viewed Mr. Mooi's sudden stroke of good fortune. The commissioner looked at the massive discount Mr. Mooi got and basically said, absolutely not, we aren't letting that slide. They took the market value of the shares at the time Mooi exercised the option, subtracted the much lower option price he actually paid in rands, and took that huge difference and slapped it right into his gross income. Why? Because the taxman argued that this massive financial benefit had accrued to him specifically in respect of services rendered. It was a reward for his hard work, and rewards for services get taxed. Period.
Section 3. Mooi's clever argument. Now, if you get a massive tax bill, you might just panic and pay it. But Mr. Mooi didn't just hand over his hard-earned rands. He lawyered up and fought back with a brilliantly cheeky, highly technical argument that makes this case so famous for us first years to study. Check out this comparison, because this is where the legal magic happens. Mooi argued that he shouldn't be taxed on this massive difference today. He claimed that the only thing that accrued to him for his services was the actual right to exercise an option in the future. And when did he acquire that right? 3 years ago. So Mooi's argument was essentially, hey SARS, if you wanted to tax me for my services, you should have taxed the value of that right 3 years ago. And obviously the value of a highly conditional right 3 years ago was probably close to nothing. He argued that the benefit he was getting now was simply the result of him paying money to buy shares, an investment decision, not a reward for services. SARS, on the other hand, gave him a harsh reality check, arguing that the actual tangible financial accrual happened right now, for services rendered over those 3 years.
Section 4. The court's final ruling.
So we have an unstoppable force meeting an immovable object, the taxman wanting his cut today versus a taxpayer trying to push the taxable event 3 years into the past. Let's step into the courtroom drama and see how the judge finally drops the gavel on this dispute. I'm going to read this exact court ruling because you absolutely need to understand the wording. The judge stated that the true and real benefit was the right to obtain shares at a set price upon the due fulfillment of all conditions. The court literally said, until the taxpayer had performed those services, he did not become entitled to any right of option, nor was anything due and payable to him. It's a dramatic revelation from Mooi's argument. The court is telling our study group right now, you don't actually get a benefit in the eyes of tax law until you have completely done the work required to unlock it. Because the conditions were only fulfilled 3 years later, there was absolutely no accrual to the taxpayer until that exact moment. So the absolutely crucial point here is this causal relationship. The court found an undeniable direct link. They stated that while the taxpayer was in the service of the company, there existed the necessary causal relationship between the benefit acquired and his services. Sweating it out at the mine, doing his job, directly caused him to get those cheap shares. Therefore, SARS was completely correct to tax the difference as gross income in the year the conditions were finally met. Mooi lost the battle, but hey, he gave us a phenomenal case study.
Section 5. The Golden Accrual Principle. All right, classmates, grab your pens, open your notebooks, and highlight this next bit, because out of Mr. Mooi's courtroom defeat comes the golden rule that every single one of you needs to memorize to pass your exam. This elegantly illustrates the concept of conditional accrual. The principle established is this: an amount can only accrue if the person has become unconditionally entitled to it. Conditional entitlement is not an accrual until the condition is satisfied. Let me break this down with a super relatable first-year analogy. Imagine your parents promise to buy you a car, but only if you pass your final exams. Are you unconditionally entitled to that car right now? No way! You can't go to the dealership today and demand the keys. It is a conditional entitlement. It only becomes an actual accrual, a real, guaranteed thing you own, the second you get those passing grades and satisfy the condition. That's exactly what happened to Mooi. No mine opening, no shares. Therefore, no accrual until the mine actually opened.
Let's move to modern application and see how this builds into the law you'll actually face in your test today. This case is legendary, for sure, but the lawmakers have since tightened the net even further. I have to warn you guys, if you see a similar scenario involving employee share options in today's exams, you must mention Section 8C of the Income Tax Act. Section 8C was explicitly introduced into our tax law to deal with the vesting of equity instruments in directors and employees. It's the modern rule SARS uses to legally guarantee they can tax these exact types of conditional share options when they vest. So always link Mooi's common law principle of conditional accrual to the statutory powerhouse of Section 8C.
So, I want to leave you all with a final provocative thought to test your knowledge. Let's say you graduate, land an amazing job, and they offer you crypto options at a massive discount, but it has a 3-year vesting period where you must stay employed. Based on Mr. Mooi's hard-learned lesson in the principles of conditional accrual we just covered, when exactly is SARS going to come knocking for their share of your wealth? Think about that causal relationship, think about when you become unconditionally entitled to the loot, and you'll have your answer ready for the exam. Good luck studying, and please subscribe.